This video is a replay of a trade I took today. Now, it probably goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway. I am not a financial advisor, and trading entails risk. Just because I got these results today doesn't mean that I can get these every day, nor that you can. Remember, the entire premise of the investing project and the $1 million experiment is that I am not an expert, and yet I am learning how to do this. So for heaven's sake, don't just blindly copy me. Instead, find a mentor, someone who is an expert, and join their community. Pay for their mentorship. This approach has worked very well for me, and it likely will for you too. So use this video partly as education and partly as inspiration. After all, if I can learn this, you can too. All right, we had a fair bit of activity today in the first hour and a half or so. Now you can see that there's a little bit of a pullback from the previous day's highs. You can see that the major indexes, particularly, well, the major indexes have all had a couple of days of red, which has been a little unusual lately. And so you've got a little bit of pullback. Now I was looking here on the 5-minute for where something would base, and my first trade was on the YM. And you can see here, although the NQ was still sort of trying to go up, the ES wasn't really sure what it was doing. The Russell was still heading lower, but you can see that there was a base starting to form on the YM. We had a couple of nice wicks here, and it looked like the opportunity was to get in here. And so I ended up, now really the opportunity to get long was probably right around 465 or so. I was late. I got in at 496, which is kind of unfortunately late, but nevertheless, that's what I did. And let me just get that there. Okay, good. I traded the 4 lots now because we're in the month 3 of the $1 million experiment, and it looked like it would be pretty close to, well, it was a little over. I think it ended up being like 120 or thereabouts handles of risk. So let's go ahead and play this back a little bit, and we'll watch what happens. And let's see here. Okay, here we go. And so it's gone back and forth a little bit. Here we are. We've jumped in. Now, what I'm going to point out here, I'm going to pause this for a second. What I ended up doing, let me zoom in here. What I'm going to do, or what I ended up doing, was following this up with a trailing stop on the 1-minute candles. And so by the time this had moved up about, I'm going to say, well, 60 or so, I probably moved this to even. And normally it would go pull up to even after it had moved 100. And that was just more room than I wanted to give it. So what I ended up doing with this is trailing up my stop to the preceding 1-minute bar. And I kept doing that until I got stopped out. And it made it up pretty high. It made it up almost to the first target. I was really hoping it would before it ended up stopping me out. Let's just go a little further. I actually think I got right up to about here before it ran into some resistance, turned around, and stopped me out. Okay, and so that ended up with 147 points times 4 contracts at 50 cents a contract. That was $294 for that first little exercise. So that was cool. The next thing was, let me just fast forward this now to 7:30-ish. That was at 6:49. That's just shortly after market open. 7:30, we were starting to see, let me zoom back out. We were starting to see a bit of a wick and a base forming on the NQ. And you know, the same argument could have been made, I guess, for the ES. You can see here that the YM had zoomed up, which is the trade that we had been in. The Russell was still heading lower, which is interesting and worth noting because we'll come back to that later. But the NQ seemed to be forming a little bit of a base here. So zooming in on this, actually, what did I get? I think it was actually the 15-minute that ended up being. Well, it doesn't matter. Let's go ahead and play this. And what did I get in? I got in at 28,761. So let's put my buy order in there. And for the 28,761, I just want to put that there so I don't forget to get in. Or when I'm replaying this, it goes back really fast. What I wanted to note here was by the time I got in, there were 100 handles of risk, which is $200. Plus, I like to add another 20 or so below the low. So really, that would be $240. So therefore, one contract was the right amount, even though we're in month 3. If we'd been trading this at with 50 handles of risk or thereabouts, I would have gone for 2 contracts. Anyway, 1 was the right number. So let's go ahead and hit play. And right around 7:31, which is in about 2 minutes, this will have triggered. Yeah, and the reason I got in just above this 5-minute bar here.
Bill.
So there we are. And then I gave myself another 20 handles of room or so below this low, just because that seems to be the way this works. Now I'll let this go. Right around 7:56, though, I get into the M2K, and you can see with the NQ, it does actually make a reasonable little high before then retreating and making us think twice about whether or not it was really going to go up. And meanwhile, if you look down here, I'm going to pause this for a second. If you look down here at the Russell is actually interesting because it's flirting with, it's already below the previous day's low. It's below the pre-market low. It's really flirting with the ATR, the low of the average true range. It's really, this is actually, and this little orange dotted line is actually the previous low from a number of days ago, like not just the previous day's low, but a week and a half or some time ago. So it's coming down to a significant area of support. And so I actually get into this at 2733.5. Let's just let this play a little bit. It's too early for me to talk about that. Meanwhile, let's keep an eye on the NQ as it unfolds here. All right, I'm going to pause this. 7:54 right now, and I actually got in. I said 2733.5, so let's put this in 78.6. Let's just bring that back a shade. There we are. Okay, so now we have both of those in, and we'll let this play all the way through. So what you can see here is now the NQ. Okay, so we get in. The NQ starts to make its more significant move, and just like I did with the YM, I'm following this up to the lows of the 1-minute candles because I'm not quite at the spot where I trust this. Let's let this unfold a bit. Yeah, this one, I mean, it trails anyway, but I was going to the previous 1-minute candles, and as I did this, it stopped me out. Did that? Yeah, it stopped me out there already. And so I stopped out with the NQ at 44 points, which is another $88 on the one contract. Meanwhile, I stayed in on the M2K, the Russell, and I stayed in until I got 5.8 points. So let's let this go a little bit further. I think I might have stopped out right about here as we let this go. Yeah, I think that was it. And then it started to pull back a bit. And so it was interesting, trailing on the 1 minute, it locked in, the trades pretty well before a more moderate pullback. Now, the challenge here is, it'd be great to stay in. And in a world where I had 2 contracts or more than one in the NQ, I very likely would have taken profit at one point and left the other one with an even stop, just so that I could be in the trade if it happened to go higher, which it did a little bit. And then the same sort of thing applies with the M2K. But in this instance, I only had the 2 contracts. Oh, and that, by the way, instead of putting on 4 contracts, which is what I probably should have done for the Russell, I put on 2 because I was already in the MNQ, and in a sense this was really kind of the same trade, because if the market goes up, they both go up largely. So I think that I wanted to contain my risk a little bit by sizing down. So that's what I did. Anyway, long story short, 294, 88, and 58 for a total of $440 today. Pretty decent little day.